So, sir, as we know that this particular examination, to even start for the examination, many students are confused that how to even begin about this exam. That also creates sometimes the confusion that how to go about this examination. So, Himanshu sir, can you share certain insights that how that inertia can be broken?
Well, it's very true that there is a lot of inertia, and to break the inertia, we need to know what is the reason for the inertia. And the reason for that is the syllabus.
Can you briefly elaborate about like what are the stages and how that particular stages are arranged?
So what we can understand is that UPSC is checking the student at each level in a different manner. First thing is you have to understand yourself.
कभी भी ऐसे prepare नहीं करना चाहिए कि in my first attempt I'll clear prelims, in my second I'll clear mains, and in my third I'll go for personalities. Maintain that objectivity for the prelims and that subjective element for the mains, but from day one target mains.
And how they need to go about that. For example, for covering syllabus, they will need to cover certain sources also. So how they should go about that?
That there are three basic stages. So I'll be more referring to prelims and mains. When you look into the prelims syllabus, so the syllabus of prelims given in UPSC is quite indicative.
Hello everyone, I am Vishal Sir, and today we are here for an insightful discussion on how to prepare for UPSC Civil Services Examination. UPSC is not just an examination. It is the story of each and every individual who prepares for this examination and have put their perseverance, hard work and smart work for the preparation. So today, to discuss and decode how to prepare for the examination, I am joined by the esteemed faculty member of Vision IAS who have the years of experience regarding this examination. Welcome everyone. So sir, as we know that this particular examination, to even start for the examination, many students are confused that how to even begin about this exam. There is an inertia that is prevailing in everyone. So that also creates sometimes the confusion that how to go about this examination. So Himanshu sir, can you share certain insights that how that inertia can be broken?
Well, it's very true that there is a lot of inertia, and to break the inertia, we need to know what is the reason for the inertia. And the reason for that is the syllabus. So syllabus is very, very vast, it's very detailed and complex, and therefore usually students they go for shortcuts, but I feel that the first right step should be to go through the syllabus. It will take some time, it becomes kind of like tedious for a beginner because it's like multiple pages you have to go through, right? Read it 3-4 times, I would say. And I think that is the first step towards breaking that inertia, because then you know what you are basically up to, what is the challenge that is going to be there. So that is the first step. Second issue is that a right guidance should be there, right? So for example, beginning with NCERTs, right, it's a right step, right? So meanwhile you finalize that whether you have to go for coaching or you don't have to go for coaching, whatever is your decision, but the first step can be that you go through the NCERTs. That will also lead to a self-assessment, that where exactly I stand. Different kind of students are there. Some students are from the humanities background, they have studied their subjects in the college, right? So they already have good enough knowledge. Some students are from technical background, right? They may find the humanities subjects slightly overwhelming, especially because of the language, because each subject has its own language. So therefore doing the NCERTs, it is the first step which basically leads to self-assessment. And once that self-assessment is done, then if there is requirement for intervention in the form of coaching, then there are coaching institutes. We provide awesome services, right? So that is how it is.
Right. So I think that breaking of inertia for that particular thing, firstly we should start from very basic things rather than jumping for specific topic related aspects. So Sudhir Sir, if we go about the discussion on like how this particular examination is arranged, because when it comes to the student about preparation of this examination, the year around preparation schedule that is there for the students, even if about the preparation of examination and the exam schedule also. So there are stages. So can you briefly elaborate about like what are the stages and how that particular stages are arranged?
Yeah. So basically UPSC exam has 3 different stages, and what I believe is the skill required for each stage is quite different. So what we can understand is that UPSC is checking the student at each level in a different manner. So as Sir was mentioning, first thing is you have to understand yourself. So once you have understood yourself, then the second thing would be like, what are your weak areas? Okay, so for example, in UPSC we have 3 stages. One is the prelims. So then prelims again we have 2 subjects. One is the general studies and CSAT. So though CSAT is a qualifying paper, so many students find it difficult nowadays because of the increase in the level of the questions. Okay, and then comes the mains. So in the mains again we have to write 9 different papers. Okay, so in that 9 different papers, what is checked by UPSC is completely different from what is checked in the prelims. For example, structuring of answers or structuring of your thoughts, the way you think, and at the same time, how do you respond to the questions? So all these things are checked in the mains. So there is something like objective skill that is required for the prelims, and there is something like a subjective skill and structuring of answers that is required for mains. Okay, so basically once you understand yourself, then you'll know where are your skills and where are the weaknesses. So probably once you have understood that, probably student can work on his weaknesses. So what I believe is once you have understood yourself, then you have to understand the exam. So prelims, then mains, and then we have interview. So interview is not a knowledge test primarily. So because the knowledge is already tested. So in the interview, basically UPSC is checking our personality, and that is the most important thing which the UPSC is doing as far as the interview is concerned. So student has to understand in detail the different stages. Along with that, where his skill lies and what are his weaknesses. And that's how I think the journey will become more easy and simple.
And many
One small thing I would like to add to Sir's input, and that is actually learning from my own mistakes. When I appeared for I appeared for 2 personality tests, and when I appeared for the personality test, I realized that the time which was available with me was very less, and I should have probably started with my DAF preparation. And so from day one, know the full story. अब तो UPSC is also asking you to fill DAF. तो कभी भी ऐसे प्रिपेयर नहीं करना चाहिए कि in my first attempt I'll clear prelims, in my second I'll clear mains, and in my third I'll go for personality. So try to have some confidence. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है कि it's not doable. Maintain that objectivity for the prelims and that subjective element for the mains. But from day one, target mains. Right? Don't keep separate books for prelims and mains. Personally, it resulted in overburdening for me actually, that separate books and all. So like ultimately one set of sources which cater to both prelims as well as mains. And there are books available in the market, plus Vision IAS also has very brilliant material. But whatever be the source, one-stop solution for both the exams, I feel it is important for the student. Well, that's from my
exactly. Yes, sir. So open-ended question for everyone, like anyone can respond. So basically Sir has talked about the stages of examination, but generally because we discuss with a lot of students, they come across this issue that why we are getting out of 10 5 marks. Like when the question is of 10 marks, then why you are providing us 5 marks, right? So there is a lack of clarity also at the end of student that what should be the kind of cutoff that UPSC expects. So what are your views about that? Like what should be a kind of like way ahead in this kind of thought process of the students?
So you were discussing about what should be the thought process in that
because
regard.
when they starting, they are not able to get like why we are getting roughly 50% marks.
So the issue actually, which even when I interact with students, the thing is that they are not able to understand whether they are just studying or they are studying in a smart way. If you are studying in a smart way, definitely you won't be facing this kind of issue. But there is this misconception that if you are slogging for hours without exactly delivering or what is needed, then actually this kind of problem comes up. That you think you will be scoring more, but you end up scoring something less. Because perhaps the demand of the question was something different and you have read something different. And syllabus they have not understood, like we were discussing before, right? So syllabus targeting needs to be there. What exactly is the syllabus and how I am going to rearrange it? Like-minded ideas, how I am going to, and interlinkages. So how I am going to interlink things. That would be important for your essay also.
Also, I feel 5 is like very good marks.
Good marks. That's what students were thinking. Like 10 out of 10 should be the marks, or 9, at least 9 I should get because I was university topper or something like that.
Well, in our time, sir, in class 10th, right, it was not so easy to get 90s. Nowadays, the culture of CBSE has changed. So nowadays, people get 99% in humanities also. But somehow UPSC has maintained our times. So getting 5 or 6 is actually very good.
And in fact, getting
But they are not getting
50%
out
is
from that
what you
culture,
get.
no, sir?
Exactly,
They are
exactly.
not getting out from that culture.
Yes.
So for that, matlab, students are not even referring ki like even the toppers are getting more, roughly
Yes,
50%
yes,
only.
yes. Once you get
And that's
50.
what, yes.
51% I think rank top 10ers में तो आ ही जाना चाहिए, I think.
So now ma'am, next question to you specifically about the syllabus, because as sir has also talked about that UPSC has a vast syllabus and that creates a kind of inertia for the students that they are thinking whether to enter upon this particular field or not. So how a student need to decode that particular syllabus first and how they need to go about that. For example, for covering syllabus they will need to cover certain sources also. So how they should go about that?
So, sir, like it was discussed before that there are 3 basic stages. So, I will be more referring to prelims and mains. When we look into the prelims syllabus, so the syllabus of prelims given in UPSC is quite indicative. That's an indicative syllabus because it's not at all, there is no clarity involved. They are just genres which have been written like polity, like current affairs, like economy, like geography, art and culture, right? So, I always suggest student, this means your reference point even for prelims have to be your main syllabus, because in main syllabus you have something structured which is already written. One point is this. So, for prelims also always refer to the main syllabus. This is the reason, right, sir also said, your preparation needs to be integrative. You can't have on 6 months I will be devoting on prelims, next 6 months on mains. No, that can't be done. So, for prelims you take forward the syllabus. As far as prelims syllabus is also concerned, we need to understand both for prelims and mains, they could be divided into 2 sections. So, this is a static portion and then we have a current affair, that's a dynamic portion, and that applies for each and every genre. So, for geography also, for economics also, for international relations also, for polity also for that matter, you have a static portion, you have a dynamic portion. For static portion, what should be the sources for prelims, if I am saying? The standard books, NCERTs of course, and if you have joined some institute, no doubt class notes of course will be very sufficing. And for current affairs, then of course they had to be 2 newspapers at least, 1 economic daily, that would be sufficient. For prelims again, I always refer that what is most important in your priority list, something directly, indirectly which has affected India in recent 1 or 1.5 years from all these genres are going to be very important. So, that should be your approach for prelims. When we talk about mains, sir, again the same thing is there. In mains 1, we have an optional paper. So, like sir also rightly said before that this optional, of course that's the catch, no? So, for optional, what optional you are choosing, now that becomes something which is really important. It could be 2 ways. एक तो आपका interest बहुत है. अब interest है तो we can't say anything. You have an interest, you go for it. Now, student comes up saying, ma'am, PSIR लें, optional लें, या sociology लें, geography, they have this confusion. Then what I guide them is, then apply your brains. Be very prudent. So, something which have maximum overlapping, go forward for that. So, you can definitely figure out which is happening, having a maximum overlapping. As far as the papers for GS are concerned, again static and dynamic portions are there. For static again, NCERTs would be there, reference books. For dynamics, again as I said, newspapers, and something of course which is related to India, that becomes important. One more thing, keep on referring to previous year's question because that will help you streamline your preparation. जैसे मैं कह रही थी कि smart study is very important, तो you need to understand कि मैं deviate तो नहीं हो रहा हूँ अपने preparation से. So keep referring to previous year's questions. So this I believe could be the way in which you can take forward the syllabus and restructuring also, how to forget. क्योंकि कई सारे ideas ना सर overlapping हैं. So first of all, like international relations, you rearrange themselves, like-minded ideas एक साथ पढ़ो, so that will even save your time. So these could be few tips for taking it forward.
Right, and also as you talked about the smart study related aspect, so one thing is coming in my mind that kind of the gist or the kind of daily summaries that are being provided on the Vision IAS portal also. So I think anybody can add also that there are certain new initiatives, for example, digital current affairs is also there, daily news analysis is there, the newspaper related, the important articles identification from the major newspapers, that is also being provided now on the portal. So I think that also can be a value add for the students if they want to add from that. So
एक और चीज़ मैं ऐड करना चाहूँगा बिकॉज वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट दो चीज़ें हैं. मैं एक तो विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द मटेरियल दैट यू मेंशन, आई वाज जस्ट थिंकिंग व्हाट इफ आई एम अ बिगिनर एंड आई हैव नेवर स्टडीड न्यूज़पेपर्स, राइट, and everybody tells me that newspapers are very important for UPSC. So if I pick up Mains 365 or PT 365 or Vision, right, that can be a good starting point. Or maybe let's say I pick up one quarterly coverage. We also have quarterly magazines, so I pick up the one of the last quarter. It gives me kind of like a jump start, right, and maybe after completing that I can gradually shift towards reading of newspapers daily. Maybe that can be also a good idea.
Right, sir, but I think that's a very interesting perspective that you are putting. So can you briefly elaborate on this particular point, because I also was thinking about this.
So like one of the I never studied newspapers before I started preparing for UPSC, right? So reading newspapers, the complex language that comes in them, it was kind of like tough personally for me, right? My English was also not very good or anything. So if in simplified manner, if of last 3 months, right, Vision IAS has provided a quarterly magazine which will cover the current affairs. Right, so I think by reading that, maybe I'll become comfortable. After completing them, I'll be comfortable in starting with the daily newspapers, right? Yes. Because I have a background of the recent events, so it kind of like provides a jump start. So that can be like one thought process.
So one thing I would like to add to this, that if you look into our monthly magazine, what I personally feel that there are specific genres which are already written. So if you want to read a current affair news regarding polity and governance, you have a separate section. Another good thing which I find in our study material is you have some facts also which are written, a history of a particular thing is also written, and in fact a gist idea for your mains also you can get actually from this, because each and every aspect are being covered, though in a very limited word limit. This is also which I find very interesting.
So that factual aspect and the background kind of information that is being covered. But I think the student should not misinterpret this, that they should not read the newspaper, because what we are suggesting is like beforehand you should have certain experience.
Easy transition.
Easy transition ke liye, yes.
Because if I start reading editorials from the Hindu from day one, I'll get demotivated.
Right.
For average English student.
Right. Even they might not get the idea na, ki what to read, what not to read.
Or student may fix the time for newspaper. So maybe 40 minutes he will read whatever he reads from the newspaper. That is comfortable. That is comfortable, and then the rest of the thing can get covered with our magazine. So one is he'll be in touch with what is going on. At the same time, the revision part will be done with the magazine.
Acha, on the optional part, sir, ma'am, I had an opinion because ma'am said, application of that smart study thing. I feel that until unless you hate your graduation subject, right, and if you like above average or good in your graduation subject, and there is no such perception that that particular subject is not favored by UPSC, right, so I think you are already half prepared for your optional, so that can be the first choice. Science subjects at times, sir, maybe tough also, sir. There, the student maybe, so science subjects, I'll say, until unless you are like very brilliant in your subject, if you were brilliant, then go for that science optional. Otherwise, for humanities, I feel that if you are a good student in your college, so 50% to already ho hi hai na aapka optional.
Sir, the point is, no, like sir was also suggesting, the minimum qualification is graduation only. That is the reason UPSC has given that you have a good subject knowledge all 3 years. आपने एक अच्छा subject अच्छे से पढ़ा. Like in Delhi University, we offered honor courses. तो 3 साल आप एक ही subject पढ़ रहे हो. अभी if you have read it, तो sir is rightly, like sir was saying, कि बढ़िया है, आपका prepare हो गया. You take forward that subject.
You have already a detailed content available, and also like if that is the subject that is available as a part of the UPSC optionals list, then it's very good subject to go for, right? So now, sir, we'll come to like specific sectional aspects. So we can start from the prelims related perspective, like how to go about prelims, because roughly if we talk about stats that maybe 12-13 lakh aspirants who are filling the form, 5-6 lakhs are appearing to the examination, and hardly like 13 or 14,000 are clearing this prelims examination. So, sir, my question to you, sir, Ram Sudhir sir, ki, what a student should do with respect to prelims, because multiple times we are going about that whether the elimination is working anymore or not, how to go for the smart studies from prelims perspective. So what are your views?
Yeah, first the student has to check the syllabus. As madam was mentioning, so the main syllabus also has to be covered for prelims. Second most important thing is the student has to check all the previous UPSC questions. I in fact say student has to do research on PYQ. So what I mean by research is taking every word that has come up or every question that has come up, doing a detailed study on the question. Along with that, the student can also solve CDS and CAPF papers. So these are also conducted by UPSC, and many a times there can be some repetitions also. And some questions are even more complicated when it comes to some subjects. So therefore, conceptual clarity will also be enhanced. And I think the student should first focus on conceptual clarity. Okay, so once he builds the concept and then he practices the previous PYQs and then he solves many mock question papers. So I think 80% of the job is done. So that is where his, his effort has to be pushed in. So first you should know what he has to study. That will come basically because you see the previous papers. So because the boundaries are not there for prelims exactly. So I fix the boundaries based on the PYQ. So I think that's the most important thing which the student should be doing. And then Vision IAS, we have our mock papers. So what I believe in last 1 month, every day you can solve 2 question papers. So generally for my students, I keep telling them like every day if you solve 2 question papers and do a research on 2 question papers, it's almost like 200 questions plus a research is equal to another 100 questions. So if I do that, it's like as if like solving 25 days if I'm solving 300 questions. So before going to exam, it is as if like I'm solving more than 7,000, 6,000 questions. So I think you're equipped with most of the things. And along with that, our current affairs is also getting covered in our mock papers. So those who have not read the current affairs completely or missed something, that will also get covered in the mock papers. And that's how I think you're fully equipped for facing the exam. Yeah.
So what I was thinking that PT 365, sometimes what happens, as sir also talked about current affairs. So sometimes what students were doing that for the entire year they were doing the current affairs from whatever sources they were referring. Now they are completely switching to PT 365. So what issue that I personally observe, because in the current affairs classes when student comes and says ki sir we have shifted to PT 365, then the dilemma comes to me that why you were preparing for the entire year's current affairs and why you were preparing notes if you are not going to follow and you want to switch to another resource. So what is your view on that? Like, is it a good strategy to completely shift to another new source which you have to read from scratch, or
psychology was my optional and their memory was a chapter, learning was a chapter. So that and my personal experience both they correspond to one thing, that information, the form in which it was initially codified, if it is revised in that form only, then it leads to best memory. So, and then there is self-generation effect in psychology. Notes or content which is generated by you, it is scientifically proven, it is much better remembered compared to given by some. So if you have made notes, जो आपका पुराना hard work है उसी को आप continue करें, वो नया language में आएगा, आपको ऐसा लगेगा that it is kind of like fresh, right? And which can demotivate you also just before the exam. So go for new sources where you feel you have not been able to do anything because of lack of time, and where you have done efforts, don't throw those efforts away, capitalize upon them until unless you are very sure कि I need some addition, but अपनी पुरानी मेहनत को ना फेंकें, मतलब मैं ये कहूँगा.
सर साइकोलॉजी की बात हो रही है, एक कॉन्सेप्ट होता है ना सर, बाउंडेड रैशनैलिटी. स्टूडेंट नीड्स टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट कि भाई माइंड की उतनी कैपेसिटी है. अभी डोंट मेक ओवर एम्बिशियस टारगेट, डेली का भी मत बनाओ एंड नॉट फॉर द एंटायर प्रिपरेशन that I'll be covering this, I will be covering that, इतने multiple sources. No, so you first of all student needs to understand. तो उससे benefit होगा, एक तो time नहीं waste होगा, ऊपर से वो demotivate नहीं होंगे. It's okay if I don't remember these things because mind की भी उतनी capacity है. So.
And actually one more thing is like if a student has read the newspaper and made his own notes, when he's reading PT also, it is not something new completely. So probably if he has missed something that can be covered from the PT without leaving his notes, he can definitely, and I don't think it will be completely new also, because if the student has put in effort on newspaper, and then it will be a kind of a revision for him, and one or two new things might get added.
Right. So I think enriching his or her notes should be a
Should be
better
done.
approach.
Yeah, enriching their notes with the magazine.
With the magazine, yes. Okay. So now after prelims, the most important stage is mains, because ultimately whatever you have done in prelims, if you have cleared, then you are done with the prelims. Then you have to start afresh, and the mains is the most important aspect that is going to eventually decide like whether you are going to get a rank or not, because the most important weightage that you are going to secure through the mains. And when it comes to mains, the answer writing like boggles the mind of each and everyone, that you have to do answer writing for this. A lot of thing has to be done. So Shruti ma'am, can you provide to the students the idea regarding how to prepare and approach for the mains examination? And also the most important aspect is the answer writing. So how they should go about the answer writing also?
So, sir, like we were discussing before, so first of all, you need to figure out the syllabus, restructure it. So 40% of your task is done. And always remember what is there in the syllabus. So I've always suggest student ki syllabus ka print out leke study table ke upar chipka lo. Every time keep referring, because anything which is coming up into news, newspaper maybe, no need to remember each and everything. Kai cheezon ko you can skip, but you can only skip when you know that this is something not relevant for my syllabus. This is one thing. Second, as far as GS, all the 4 papers are concerned, interlinkages are very important. You can't have a silos approach. For instance, like when I teach international relations, when we are dealing with what all is happening, Trump coming up, a new direction to even US-Russia relations, what would be the future, we need to understand, and the history lies somewhere in the world history. So you can't have this understanding if you don't have a good understanding of world history. Similarly, if you are discussing about economics or Indian economy, then of course that also have a good relation with either you can take forward the political history of India or even the politics which is happening. Similarly, like governance and social issues, governance and polity could be, they can also be interlinked. If the student knows this art, sir, then of course not only for mains, as I told you, for essay also that would be a great help. Even during a personality test, that will show your multifaceted way in which you can present yourself. So interlinkages for answer writing, I believe that is very important. Third, answer writing practice, no doubt, you can't skip that. So answer writing becomes important because you are able to figure out and capitalize on your strength, perhaps work up more upon your vulnerabilities. और उसका भी first focal point has to be your first reference PYQs. तो अब UPSC previous year questions को लगाना शुरू करो. Then of course Vision is also coming up with mock test, both sectional as well as the long length. You can refer to that. We have personalized test series also. So that would also help you कि कौन सा section में आप weak हो, आप वो वाला section you can figure out. So this also becomes important. So by and large, it's more like, success is never an accident. Especially for UPSC, it has to be a combination of diligence, perseverance, and of course, strategy and execution. So if you're just having a strategy, that is also not correct. So if execute karo, that is also not correct. So strategy without execution is useless, execution without strategy aimless. So strategize all the things together and very intelligently then you have to play. So that should be our approach, I believe.
Right. And I think in answer writing, one thing is coming to my mind is the notes, like how your notes are arranged. Because if you are reading the scattered material at different places, and if you are not having certain kind of compilation in a thematic wise or topic wise manner, then I think it will be very difficult for the student to reconcile all the kind of information, gather all the thoughts when he or she is putting that into answers, and then basically the marks will be automatically be given based upon the generic answer that one has written. So what are your views, if anybody want to add?
So having your handwritten notes is always a must. That is something which I believe. The reason being, one, as Sir was talking about, the recall capacity. So that is one. Second is, for writing a 10 marker, suppose I need 8 to 10 points. So it's not just about knowledge, it is about that time limit. So when I revise something multiple number of times, and that becomes more simple, and if that is written in my own handwritten notes. So for making notes, I think the student can also use, one is making notes from the syllabus, the lines in the syllabus. That is one way of making notes for mains. So you have the line in the syllabus, I make 10 pointers or 15 pointers, which I can use in the exam. Second is referring to our topper sheets. So how did the topper present? How is the data, or for ethics, how are the examples put forth? So these things can also be prepared beforehand, and therefore there can be a solid consolidated notes. And the notes should not be too bulky so that you can't revise. That's very important, that you consolidate it very properly so that you can revise 5 to 6 times before going to exam. So I think that's the better way.
Just one point, if our notes will be structured, only then our answers would be structured. Because multiple mechanisms can be there. If any event has happened, why that event happened, how that event happened, what were the consequences of that event, positive consequences, negative consequences, or political impact, social impact, economic impact, whatever suits you. Long term reasons, short term reasons trigger some kind of organization with which you are comfortable, with which you feel that you are able to understand the topic in a good manner. Be it any topic, economics topic, inflation, why inflation, and anything. So yeah, I feel structure is important.
And I think that can be directly replicated to the answers also, because this is the way questions are being asked.
That's when answer check is ना कि आपके आंसर में flow नहीं है. तो flow तब होएगा जो एक structured way में when it is coming, so flow will be automatically visible.
So one thing I would like to add, that when you are preparing, like you are making an answer for your mains, तो what I suggest my students, जैसे suppose मैं पढ़ा रही हूँ India IOR, Indian Ocean Region, वहाँ I have referred to that how India can collaborate at the level of IORA. अभी IORA, what is IORA, how many members are there, I am not discussing for mains perspective because that not been required, but immediately I tell student, चलो घर जाके you prepare a small note, now that is important for your prelims. So syllabus has to be in that way integrated, and on your notes also. So आप बनाओ mains के perspective से, then you pick out things for prelims. So that is a very nice way.
So after discussion on mains related aspects, Himanshu Sir, the personality test, I think you also believe is the most crucial aspect, because though mains decide whether you are going to enter into the services or not, it is the personality test which will decide like what kind of rank you are going to get, what kind of service you are going to get. So, and also it is, as Sir has also talked about, that it is not basically the kind of knowledge test, because that is already tested. It is the test of the personality. So what kind of personality UPSC is also expecting that a candidate should be having, and also what will be the kind of things that a student can adopt in order to inculcate that personality attributes?
Well, from my experience of working in the government also, I feel that first personality trait that the seniors and in general the government also wants is like diligence and honesty of effort, integrity of effort, and integrity of being consistent in achieving that particular goal. So therefore, if you are able to develop a personality and image in the government among the seniors that you are a go-getter, so therefore this perception develops after in the service, that if any tough job has to be given, give this particular person and he will put his best efforts. Your image gets built, right? So therefore, because the government job is as tedious, as demanding like a private sector job, in fact even more because of the responsibilities aspect. So therefore, if they are able to see that okay, this candidate has put in hard work, and how will they get to know about it? So how you approach a particular problem, are you analytical, are you calm, composed? At times they may ask some tough questions. How do you respond to that? In crisis situation, will your mind stay balanced or you will be jittery? What if anything unexpected comes your way, right? Or that's why, for example, at times like recently interviews have been done. So for example, back-to-back factual questions. The idea is not to extract the factual information from you. The idea is to how do you behave when you are on the back foot? Do you cave in? So therefore, they have different mechanisms, and I feel the best approach is if you are taking the question on the face value, trying to analyze its part, be analytical, be calm and composed, I feel, and be honest in your answers, right? So don't try to bluff. So these are the personality traits which tell many things about a person. So that is there. So I feel the second aspect is that now to UPSC is forcing us to put in the populate the fields of DAF and submit it. So that's a very good thing, because DAF has its own syllabus, right? And my simple solution to that is simply go about your UPSC preparation. Whenever any newspaper article comes whereby by the headline you feel that this relates to my DAF, even if you do not read that article, store a copy of it in a folder. If you do that thing for 1 year, by the end of the year, you will have your own self-crafted syllabus of your DAF. So you would know that anything related to my DAF, what has been in the news. It can be the name of your college, right? So something is there in the name of your college by chance in the news, right? So anything, but उसके लिए एक बार आप DAF भरेंगे, then that consciousness comes that okay, that thing it is there. So start preparing for the whole package from day one, I would say, without getting overwhelmed, right? So that would be my suggestion.
Right. So like yesterday's incidents I can recall of, like I was taking the interview and the college name was Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj College. So recently there was a movie also. So there are very high probable questions because the controversies and all these things are going on. So UPSC picks from that and they want to ask your view on that particular aspect.
They want to know that are you self-aware? Right, that okay, this is my college. So are you inquisitive? क्या आपने कभी सोचा, मूवी आने से पहले भी ज़्यादा वैलिड है कि क्या आपने कभी सोचा कि ये संभाजी कौन थे, है ना, मेरे कॉलेज का नाम है, तो आर यू एन अवेयर पर्सनैलिटी या फिर नहीं हो, तो वो आपकी पर्सनैलिटी के बारे में पता चलता है उनको.
And also one thing is a general question. So many a time students fail to balance their perspective. They either tend to go to very much extreme in order to praise certain initiatives, whether taken by government or maybe opposition, or they are too much on to criticizing aspects. So they generally tend to not able to make certain balance in their approach. So how valid is it to maintain a kind of balanced approach for the personality tests?
Sir, what I feel is that student should understand for which service they are applying for. This is the executive and this is the non-political permanent executive which we are applying. Moment you know this, that you are going to be non-political in nature and that you are going to be the permanent executive, irrespective which government is coming or going, then I believe your response would automatically be a very balanced idea. Things you are finding it, see, being critical is not bad, but too much critical or too much gaga about something, of course, that shows your prejudice. You are not supposed to show that. Also, sir, in the field work, when you are there, you have to be a very balanced person. So you need to take forward a very moderate, golden approach, which would be a middle way, so that you are able to settle down things. And at the same time, you need to give, I believe, opinionated questions अगर आते हैं, हर candidate को उसको closure देना चाहिए, because that's what a able civil servant did. He is able to give a closure to issues because that's what is expected. So closure means you come out with innovative ideas. So out of box ideas you can always suggest. शायद ऐसा आप बोलोगे तो of course you are going to make a dent in your interview also.
I would like to add that the biggest tool for a civil servant is the law. If law is on your side, right, then no problem, right. So if you're aware, legally aware, right, and you are implementer of law, your opinion may be something else until unless the board is asking for your opinion apart from law. That is, base your opinion in law, because that is going to be the way things are going to be. Base your opinions in well established ethical principle, right. And the last thing, for example, would you hire someone who constantly keeps you criticizing? Imagine that let's say a driver is providing his services to me, right? He meets me first thing in the morning. He says, "Sir, you are looking totally stupid today. I don't know what are you doing in your life. Would I want him to be with me?" Right? So, and second point, for example, right opinion also, right? I want to know, I want to improve, but you are always praising me. So how will I get to know? Like in Hindi they say nindak nede rakhiye, right? So therefore a balance which is rooted in sound ethics and law, right, and also ultimately loyalty to the nation state. The state is created by the nation, right? So therefore loyalty to the nation state, to its principles, to its constitution. अगर आपका वो सिद्धांत रहेगा, आप कभी गलत जा ही नहीं सकते.
So I think we have covered the sufficient pointers. If a student who is like right now thinking about preparation for the UPSC examination, I think by watching this particular video, he or she might be getting enough pointers at least not to just think about it, but to start preparation for the UPSC examination. So thank you very much, sir and ma'am, for joining for this particular discussion, and I think student might have got a lot with respect to the UPSC Civil Services preparation. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. So we are wrapping up this particular discussion. Dear student, I think you might have got sufficiently regarding how to prepare and how to go about this particular examination. So do not just think, try to now implement for the UPSC examination, and all the very best. Thank you.